All right, everybody. Welcome to the Angular Gaming Stream with Mark and Jeremy in the building. How's everything going? Oh no, I can't hear anything. Is this me? Am I the problem? Hey, friends at home. Jeremy, can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me talking. So it's just me, the problem. Okay. Because it's strangely quiet.
You can hear me now.
Oh, there you go. I thought it was me.
No, it's me. StreamYard always picks the wrong audio input for me. Every time.
I believe it. Every time StreamYard. I don't know why you do that. Okay. Can hear us. Let's greet our people in the building. We had a lot of questions. We got Josh in the building. Josh, developer, listen, you asked a question about the course. Guess what? We got all the videos back from post-production. So now it's only a matter of time before that content goes live. So be very excited. And remember, this course is for people who are just learning Angular. If you are already an Angular developer, you won't get the value that you're looking for. We are developing that course, though, that will give you the dreams that you're hoping for. Who else we got in the building? We got Yvonne here. What's going on? Michael Faith is so faithful to the stream. Thanks for always tuning in and hanging out with us. Let's see. Terabyte. I get it. Terabyte. That's clever. Welcome. Good to see you. Marcus, good to see you. Good to have you. Tomas, good to have you here. Thanks for coming through. Okay. Alcatraz 01. Thank you for letting us know you can hear us. Okay, Jeremy, we have a lot to do today.
I'm not 100% sure what we are doing today, actually. we talked about it a little bit on Slack.
Yeah, okay. Well, wait, we got a few more people we got to greet, and then we're going to tell people what we're going to do. Oh, buenos días de Barcelona. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Welcome, Abel. Welcome. Jefferson, welcome as well. Bienvenido aquí con nosotros. Welcome. Vetri, hello. What's up, WRG in the building? All right. Starving Musician in the building. I was playing guitar this week, and I thought about you. I was like, man, I wonder what Starving Musician is up to. Okay. This is a good question. Kellen has a good question for us. We're not going to play a game. We're going to make a game. And we're going to do something a little bit different. Because one question that we get a lot of times is like, how do you interview for Google, right? And then how do you do all this stuff? So I went to Jeremy and was like, so what if we did like an interview style game question today where we design, like the question is, how do you make a game board that can be abstracted? Like, right? So kind of like the framework for a game, and then someone else could take that implementation and actually implement it. No one has ever asked me this, say, Google, this was not a part of my interview, but I thought it would be a good exercise to design a game where the rules can be implemented on top of the foundation that you create. That's what I was thinking about. So I got some ideas of what I want to be able to do with this. I want to be able to, one, design a game board from a 2D representation, like a 2D matrix, and then have the spaces be almost like an interface where you can say, this is what this space does, right? And then we can implement, if we have a few minutes left, some examples of how to make a space do a thing. But like, what are the fundamentals of an abstract game that can then be built on top of upon?
You want to make a game engine.
I want to make a game engine for board games.
Set of games.
That's right. I want to make a game engine for board games. That's right. This is a really bad idea now that you said it out loud. This is a really bad idea. Well, we're going to do it. Okay, I'm going to program this week. I have my T ready, so I can write some code, and we're going to pair and program. So that answers some questions. Let's see. Shuham, hello from India. What's going on? Rufo, what up? From Brazil, is that from Brazil? Is that where you're saying you're from, Neil? Either way, welcome. All right, let me get the screen on the screen. Bam, I'm gonna do it in Stack Blitz today, just to that way I can have like my browser embedded. That's why I chose Stack Blitz. All right, basic application. I've done no programming. Nothing has happened here, right? So this just says hello world. I want to prove that there is nothing fancy happening.
Yeah.
You're
going to have to really increase that font size for us.
Oh, is it really tiny? Okay, I will do that.
Let me go look on the actual stream, but
Jeremy,
on the stream it's pretty tiny. I like in StreamYard, I can barely make it out.
how about now? Is that better?
No. Okay, that's
Okay.
better.
Okay, that works for me. This totally works. Jeremy, are you able to pull up questions?
Yeah, I can keep an eye on. Oh, you mean like feature them in the stream? No, I can't do that.
Oh, you can't do that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's something that we'll make sure you can do the next time at least. Oh man, I wish I could fix that for you.
Don't worry about it.
I won't worry about it. Yeah, we're losing time. Okay.
Yeah.
Game engine. All right. So what are the things that a game engine probably needs? I don't know. So if Jeremy were interviewing me to do this, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I would do. He asked me the question, like, Mark, how do you design a game engine? I'll tell you exactly what I would do. I would ask some questions like, what should the game engine do? Right. So I think you should have player turns. That should be a thing to define. And if you got player turns, you probably need a number of players.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know if order is interesting, but that's a clarifying question that I would ask you, Jeremy. Like, does order matter? Do you need to know that up front, or is that a later feature?
So you do need to know about order, definitely. And not only that, you need to know about, are there simultaneous turns, or is it like taking turns, right? Because in some games, all players take their turn simultaneously. And in some, it happens in sequence.
Okay, so so if Jeremy said that to me, I would literally say, for this example, I'm going to do it in sequence. If we have time left at the end, I'll look at how we can do simultaneous, right? And what would have to change. But I want to make it work first. I would literally say that. I don't know if that's a good answer or not, Jeremy, but that's what I would tell you. Then you probably need a game board. And so in my mind, we're going to do like a grid for the game board.
Yeah,
but
you say grid, but not all games are taking place on a grid. Good old Settlers of Catan is hexes, right? Right, and so really, like from a purist standpoint, right, a board game is probably, you're talking about like a graph, and then when you are displaying it, you're doing a projection of that graph onto a like rendered surface. That sounds complicated.
So in my mind, I want to be able to create this though. Like if these are tiles, and then you could like have some blank spaces, and this is a path that you can go on the tile, and then that links to that path, and then you see what I'm saying? And so that's what I was thinking about. But a graph makes sense because a graph gives you more freedom.
Yeah, a grid is just a certain flavor of graph.
Right.
And you're still controlling the adjacency, right? Like a chessboard is a graph. The spaces on Monopoly are a graph, and the adjacency is somewhat simple in those, but
yeah. Okay. So to make things simple, I'm going to do a grid 2D array in my mind. That's what makes sense. And then the spaces have actions. And so I'm thinking like Monopoly, like you could define what that space does.
Mm-hmm.
It could be free or it can have an action, but I want the action to be,
Yeah.
Okay, wait. I have to feature this comment though.
Yeah.
One more talking to another. Hello, what's going on? I like that energy. One more talking to another. Hello from India. I see you out there. Let's go. All right. Anything else do I need to do?
You're gonna have to deal with adjacency, or like where, like if well, actually, even taking a step back, you're gonna need to have pieces, right? So there's players, but then there's also pieces that are controlled by those players.
Yeah.
And those pieces are going to be in a spot on the grid, and there's going to be, restrictions on where they can move, right? That's what we would say when we're talking about adjacency within the graph.
Yes, agreed. So then, also thinking about game rules, you would run a list of rules after each turn. That list of rules, I feel like it could be an array of rules that a player could define, and you have certain acts, and so you get passed in the game board and the players, and then based on that information, you should be able to determine, and you should be able to define any rule, right? Okay, this is enough. If we get through this, I'll be super happy. Now, where am I going to start? I don't know. I'm going to take this. They got the whole thing. You said what?
Start by just putting a table on the page.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. But first, this is interesting that the way Stack Blitz has the component in a single file in main.ts kind of threw me off. So that's why I was like, wait, what? Well, this is a single file component, the single file application. All right, I'm just going to work out of this file for now. All right, let me just get something on the screen. Let's update this. I don't want to do a table, but I will do a table. Yeah, I wanted to do a CSS grid, but I'll do a table just to make my life easier. All right, and then I got my game board. So I think my game board is my two-dimensional array. Is that how you do that in TypeScript?
No, that's not TypeScript. So you would say
that like C++ or something to do that?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of programming languages that have the type on the left-hand side, but TypeScript is always the type goes on the right-hand
side. What I was trying to do is define it, because I know there's going to be an array.
So what you do is give it the type of an array of, like, you're going to need to come up with a type for what actually goes in there. But for now, let's just call it, just put any, right? So colon any, and then make that, it's a two-dimensional array.
And then this, I can do that.
And then on the right-hand side, you're going to assign this to, for now, just say an empty array, right? But later, you're going to want to change that empty array to some initialization function, right? It's going to be like make initial board or something like that.
Right. But can I do something just to get something displayed on the screen? I kind of have an idea of what I want it to look like, right? And so if this is, and so then could I just say that just to start, a space is an empty. So this is like an empty tile. And then this would be a player defined, or a defined tile that would have an action, right? And so this is an action tile.
Yeah. So let's see. We had somebody ask why we don't have live captioning on our YouTube stream. I don't actually know what's required to have live captioning. YouTube will add captions to recordings, but I don't know if it has the ability to like dynamically generate them on the fly while we are talking.
And I just want to apologize for this. This is something that we can definitely do better on. We will work on this. This is a good point. Thank you for bringing this up. We will work on this and make sure that we get some captions. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Yeah. Okay. We will work on that.
Yeah.
All right. So can I just if I can get this displayed, I'll be happy for now. So 2 action tiles. Let's see. So this is the first one. And for friends at home, I didn't think about anything but the idea. So I'm trying to solve this in real time. Usually I'll try to figure it out beforehand, get some like code written. This, I did not write anything. I'm just going to do it in front of all of you at the same time. So not NG4, but TR, and then we'll do directive NG4, and then we'll say this is my row of game board. How do I get an index on the first one for this?
It's like let index. I can never the syntax is inscrutable. I can never remember it. Here, let's see. I'm gonna open up my own.
I don't remember. Okay, but first, if we got that, what is that? If I get one of these, what do I get on the screen?
Let's see.
Okay, so that's right.
There's a question in the chat about the expression changed after it has been checked error. My recommendation is to go check out the Angular docs. There is a whole video that explains what this error means and what you can do about it.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. There you have commentators telling you what you need, Mark.
There we go. All right. So, yeah, I don't remember this stuff. Let I equals, I can do that. And then I can just have like my index here and just make sure that everything is what I want. Excellent.
I.
Oh, I. Yeah. Okay, great. So I got my index. All right. Sounds good. Now let me display my my grid stuff here. So for each one of these, I will want for each row, I think I want to do my another ng4 here to get my row, because ng4, and I let go a column, sorry, of game board of I feel like I want to do that, and then get each one of my things here. Yep, and then display it. But I'm going to use a different character for now because the blank space is not going to show up. So can I do an emoji?
I'll just do an underscore.
Oh, that works. Okay. Yeah, underscore is a great idea. And then we'll change the representation because ideally I want you to be able to define what your eye looks and what your blank one looks like. So I don't want to get involved in that. All right, cool. So now I have one row. So if this is right,
we got a question in here. I think a couple of people have actually asked about signals, right? People have seen our pre-announcement about signals, starting to see the PRs landing for prototyping. And I won't say too much about it on this stream because we are working on the RFC, and the RFC will have all of these things in meticulous detail about why we're looking at signals and why we think they're a good fit for Angular and what it will look like to use them in Angular. And I don't want to jump the gun on the RFC by trying to do a bad job of explaining it off the top of my head.
Totally. All right. So now just kind of going back to like the premise of this. So now that I actually know how to get things displayed on the screen, I can do what Jeremy said, which is initialize the game board based on some logic. I can extrapolate this to a function, and then I can do init game board, right? Like, and so that'll work for me because I kind of know that it works versus trying to debug multiple things at the same time. But why can't I do this? They got to do this on this one. Is that why you don't like this? Yeah, I got to do this.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So our game board is working for now. Okay. So let's make the game board better because I got the basic thing. What I kind of want to do is be able to generate a tile and want my tile to be able to have the display, right? That I want. I want to be able to provide that.
Yeah. You might want to also deselect the displayed comment there, Mark.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So people like kind of new to Angular. Can you explain what a signal is? Oh, you know what? Terabyte.
I put the link to our GitHub discussion in the chat. So I definitely like that's probably a good starting point. And there's there's some more links in there. But yeah, this concept of a signal is it is a value that participates in a reactive notification system, so to speak. So basically, like a signal is a data structure that contains a value, and you access that value through a getter, and you set it through a setter. And by virtue of using that, like getter and setter, the framework or any other system can keep track of when things change.
All right, so I want to make. I'm so used to using my other tooling here. Okay, new file, and this would be tile.ts. I guess I want this to be an interface. So I call tile, and then the tile should have an action and a display. What does the display look like? I don't know. Let's make it what should the display be? So I know this should be a function, right? Like I want this to be a function that they can like call. And then I want my tile display. What I want that to be. Do I want to make this a function as well that you have to return some type of like HTML template or something?
So, I mean, because it's Angular, right, you wouldn't really want to just put raw HTML.
Right. Right.
What you could do is like you can make it a DOM node, but then you're kind of getting away from using Angular for things. You could make it a template ref so that you're stamping out a template, but then you have to get into the whole API around creating embedded views. You could make it a component, right? Like you could just accept a component here and render that component into the DOM there.
Let's do that.
You woke up this morning and chose complexity.
I did, but this is good because again, like if I were interviewing right now,
so component isn't the symbol you want here, right? Component is the decorator.
Oh, that is the decorator, right.
So what is a component? Angular doesn't have actually an interface or like a type that can represent a component. And so you really just want something here that is newable. That is really the only requirement for a component from a type perspective. I think there is a symbol in Angular that is in the public API, and I think it's called type. And that you can use here. It was never really intended to be a public API, but it kind
of... What about component ref?
Component ref is not a component like it's not the type of a component. It is an object that has a reference to a component inside.
Oh,
right. So just change component here to type with a capital T.
Okay.
Yeah, that is what Angular uses internally to represent the type of a component. Again, yeah, it was not meant to be a public API. It just kind of accidentally leaked out.
Okay, so I'm like, I don't know how a person would have known to like do this, but
no.
Okay, let's see. References a type that it can
and then you can make it unknown, or you can make tile generic and use the generic for both.
Oh, you mean like type and then?
Yep.
I really chose some complex stuff, but this is good though. This is good. No,
for those of you watching the stream, you probably don't want to use that type symbol. Don't use it. You just need something that's newable in TypeScript. See, there's a lot of symbols like this in the Angular public API that were never intended to be public APIs, but they were accidentally included in the early days, and it took too much work to take them out now.
No, I get that. All right. Well, all right. So I'm choosing like the hardest path here, but that's okay. So now...
You keep going. I'm going to answer questions here. So there's a question here about why are there symbols in Angular that are prefixed with this weird character? And for a fun bit of trivia, that character is not a theta. It is a barred Latin O. And these are things that are meant to be private APIs. They are not meant to be used by any public consumption of Angular, right? They're like, if you use them, we're going to break you unequivocally.
Why can't you?
And the reason that we need to have these things even exposed in the public API surface in the first place is because of Google's build system. So for Angular, we use a build system called Bazel, and inside of Google, they use the same build system. And things can only interact with each other through their public API surfaces at these build boundaries. And so there are some places where we need to define APIs that we use in Angular itself, but they happen at build boundaries at like the space in between build compilation units. And so we use that character to really make sure people don't use it. You may ask, why not use an underscore? That's a common convention to say that something is private. Well, after 10 years of working on Angular and doing front end, we found that people really just don't respect the underscore. Like they see it as not, this is private and I shouldn't use it, but instead as like, this is discouraged, but it's totally fine to use. And so by making it a character that you can't even type on your keyboard without special knowledge, then it is much more strongly discouraged.
All right. So I have found out something really interesting about this programming example. Not having VS Code and all the niceties of like auto imports and all that kind of stuff. You know, This is good because I'm like, man, a lot of stuff is done for you that you don't remember that you have to do like all the export stuff. Anyway, back to this. So now that I have my tile, I know how to like write it in here. I don't know how to define a component that I want to put here. So first, let me make the component. Let me start there. I'm gonna start with what I know how to do. I know how to make a component, right? So let me call this a blank. We just call it blank dot component or blank tile. Can we do that? Dot component dot ts. Okay. We'll start with that. Okay, so we import component, and we'll get that from Angular /core. All right, and then we do add component, get all this stuff cooking, and then we'll call this one, we'll say export default class, call this blank tile. Boom, we got that going, and we will definitely want to say that standalone is true. Do our template. Then we'll,
So someone asked, how in Angular do we actually reference those symbols? What I need to do, I just copy and paste it from somewhere else. I don't remember how to make that character.
But like you say, it hasn't stopped people.
Oh yeah, so this whole thing is like meant to stop people from using these APIs. But no matter what we do, it's very much the like I'm a sign, not a cop situation. At least when you use that symbol, you really know you're doing something you're not supposed to do, and you know if it breaks, it's your fault.
Oh wait, I got to do mine. What's the default selector if you don't?
You have to have a selector. It's required.
It shows as optional though.
Probably a mistake. Actually, all right. In a unit test, you don't have to have a selector. If you do that, I think it will just make a div.
But yeah, it's optional here, but
yeah, in real life, you pretty much need to set a selector.
Got it. All right, so let's get our tile in here. So I got to import.
Oh, that's true. Routed components don't need a selector either. I guess they are kind of optional. Now that I think about it.
I was just like, man, why? Oh, blank tile. And it's blank tile.
Yeah.
Blank tile.component. And
I think you'd be having an easier time, Mark, if you were using WebStorm.
I would totally have an easier time if I were using like a different IDE, but then I'd have to have, oh wait, I didn't even name this thing right. There we go.
Don't put the component on the end, just blank tile.
That's what our tooling does by default. Is it puts
and I want to change it.
Oh man, that's funny.
It's boilerplate. You can change it, everyone. You don't have to listen to the style guide. You can.
Yeah, don't listen to what we say and then listen to what we say. Okay. So let's continue to just like crank out this thing. All right. So now you can't new an interface, but you can. Okay, so first I'm going to write what I know. Every time I get stuck on something I'm like not sure what to do, I write what I know and then go from there.
Yeah, Mark can't use ngGenerate because he's doing this in StackBlitz instead of a real
right, Rafi.
like WebStorm.
I'm doing this in StackBlitz. That's right. All right, so I got my type here, but I'm not really sure how to it's not a new. I'm not sure what the syntax is here because I know I can't do a new blank tile component. What is the TypeScript syntax here? I literally forgot what to do here.
What are you trying to do? I haven't been paying attention to your code. I've just been looking at the chat.
Oh, I can tell you what I'm trying to do. I want to render my component on the screen, so I can take this out.
So what you need to do is right there, like what is the type in this array, right? You got
But I have any right now.
Yeah. So you want this changed from any to you need some sort of tile object, right? That's what you want. So
before I get there though, I want to be able to put a tile in my
You got to get your types right before you start putting stuff in there, though.
Why though?
The whole thing makes no sense.
No, because wait, okay, this is just my type that I'm trying to get in here.
Yeah.
But because it's any, I can put any type in here though.
Yeah, but it's not going to mean anything.
I could put a 1 here, like it really wouldn't matter, right?
Sure.
Like,
but you like let's get the type right though, so that at least the completion can help you. So what you made a type called tile? That's an interface, right?
I did. Uh-huh.
All right. So now.
Well, no, okay, wait. No, this is an array of type tiles. It's not a 2-dimensional tile array. Did I say that backwards?
No, that's what you've got there should be right. Right? That's what you want. Why? So why is tile complaining? Why is that right?
Because it's a generic.
Okay. And so you need the type of thing that you're going to render into it. So you need to make probably you want your whole class to be generic. So this is where like the complexity kind of is coming from the fact that you want you're trying to like create a service that is rendering out arbitrary content, and that introduces this layer of, or this this extra complexity of you need to actually accept a component type. And so for the purposes of just getting something on the page, just put blank tile there.
Okay, wait, first. No, Mark Thompson, the other Mark Thompson, I wasn't trying to put the type there as the value. I was putting it as a placeholder to say, this is what I want to do. And I'm trying to figure out the syntax to match it. So, but thank you though. Yeah, but I'm just trying to figure it out. Listen, this is true. It does have generators, but I don't know how to use Stack Blitz. So I'm doing everything by hand.
I didn't know Stack Blitz had that. That's pretty cool. But yeah, just put blank tile there for now.
But if I put blank tile, then it's going to mess me up.
It's not going to mess you up.
It is, because that's not what I want. I don't want all blank tiles.
Then put unknown.
Why can't it just be generic extends type of?
You can put any, right? You can put unknown, right? If you don't want to reify it right now.
Yeah, I just I'm not happy with this solution right now, because what it should be is any type of tile, anything that implements tile.
Oh, well then yeah, you'd have to have, say here, T extends tile.
But it does. But wait, no, it should be a component. Oh, I've really made this more complex than I think I need to. It's okay. And I don't mind struggling with like programming this in front of people. Like, this is what I would do. This people do quietly at their desk, right? I'm just doing it in front of, hundreds of people. Oh, duh. Okay, so I actually want this to be type, not tile. Let me tell you why. Because all of these will be components.
Sure. Okay. Some type of component.
Yes, there you go. That's what I want.
Remember, type is also, it has a generic, right? It needs to be the type of thing that's out there. So you could just put unknown or any, and that's fine.
Sure, but that feels wrong though.
It's not necessarily wrong, right? Unknown is basically, well, no. If you want it to be a component, you would do type, and then inside of type, it would be.
Oh, yes.
Right. So this is saying like, I have these tiles, and each one is associated with some sort of component, and then what kind of component? Unknown, right?
Why do you think you're a string? Who told you were a string?
Your init game board is returning strings.
Yeah, but I didn't tell it was a string.
It infers it.
And I know type inference. I get it. I'm just saying I didn't tell you that you're returning a string. Okay, now we can get to my first tile. Let's get my first tile back in these streets.
I saw somebody ask a question in here. Let's see. Are there plans to replace Jasmine with Jess? Are you spying on our meetings?
Yeah, they need to stop.
We just had a meeting that I won't say exactly what it was about, but it was the jest was discussed.
So we can't talk about it. But child likes to type components out by hand. It is a nice practice to type these things out by hand. I'll tell you that now. I like it because in case I get into a situation like this where I don't know the tool, I can still create my components.
Yeah.
So anyway, Now back to what I'm trying to get. My value here is a component, but I can't reference the component directly. Can I? Can I just put blank?
So I also mentioned, like, for those of you like who do want to use Jest, you absolutely can just use Jest today, right? There's a community builder for using Jest in Angular CLI. It's not built into the CLI, but you can like go out and swap it if that's something you want.
Okay, I remember what I want to do here. Okay, now I remember. Okay, so I did a tile type with a display value. The display value is a component. So that way, when I get to my template eventually, I can just say render the display value for each tile. Yeah. So what I want in my game board here.
So I will say, Mark, that if you don't have any requirements you want to put on the component itself, you can go back to your tile, and where you currently have T, you can eliminate that generic and just put type of unknown here. And what that's going to do is say, display is any kind of component. I have no requirements on what kind of component it is.
I do not have any requirements right now.
Yeah. So go ahead and get rid of the generic on tile, and put inside of type, just put unknown, right? That'll simplify things a bit for you.
Good. I like that. I like that idea. And then if I go here,
you don't need that generic at all. You just have a like game board of tiles. The whole thing goes away.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so now we're closer. That makes more sense to me without, because I don't have any specific. Only thing I care about is that I want to render components here. All right, so I just want to get my first blank component, but it has to be a tile.
Yeah, so you got to make an object that has a display property.
Yeah, I knew that, but I don't know how to reference my component.
And then here, this is just assigned to the display property blank tile. Yeah, that. So that will satisfy it. So now you're going to need to know, how do we actually render that?
Right.
So if you go into your template, you can put in an ng container.
Okay.
And then put on this.
Hold on. It's not auto completing my stuff for me. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, you're gonna want ng component outlet.
Somebody said that, and I want to thank you for saying that.
Yes.
Somebody said that. Hold on. Somebody in the streets. I want to give you credit for that, because I saw you put that in the chat here. I don't know if I'll ever find it, but I saw you. I'll just tell you I saw you. Oh no, it was you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here, I'm gonna put exactly what you want in the chat.
Your chats don't come up.
No, in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, I'm saying I don't see your stuff.
Why do you see mine?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, I don't know how to help you then. Here, I'll put it on our
Put it in Slack.
Oh, it's that. So we actually.
Well, I can just look it up. Like, I can just look up the syntax for this. I don't have to.
I sent it to you. Mark, did you shadow ban me on YouTube?
Maybe.
Actually, this is a question for you all. Do you see my chats in the YouTube chat?
All right, component type. Okay, so I got my ng component outlet, right? And then let's see, do I just put my... Oh, can I just do my call.display? Yes.
Yeah, yes. There you go. You got it. Mark, did you ban me on YouTube?
I did not. I did not.
Who did that?
I told you that you weren't showing up. I told you earlier because you had typed something and it didn't come through.
Why am I shadow banned on the Angular channel?
I will fix it later. Listen, child, do not spread this false rumor. I did not bend. Oh man. Oh, let's see. Somebody asked if we were playing a game. No, we're making a game engine right now, and fighting with types and stuff. Okay, so this is pretty dope. So now the thesis that I had about this is I want to be able to do exactly this, where I could, like if I made it into a class, I could pass around this stuff and just make it like do things that we need to do. But now I got 2 blank tiles, right? And then if I want to make my other tile, I'm gonna call it an action tile. Oh wait, okay. I know what else I want to do. Can I, in my constructor, I could pass in, well, I guess you pass in information. I'm trying to think, like I know we use inputs to pass data to components, but that's when they're already like as a part of the template. I was trying to think about how could I customize my tile component to be able to pass in the value that I want here instead of blank tile.
I mean, I think that you're probably getting too deep in the weeds for right now, right? Like because like if you wanted to actually build this as like a library somebody could use, right, you would have like a game component or something like that, inputs for this stuff. But because you're just talking about your like your root app component here, you can't bind inputs into it.
Right. I know.
You have to refactor this out into another component.
It's okay. We don't have to do that. But just something I'm thinking about.
Let's see. There's a question in here about when you should use ng container, and it's really anytime you don't want a real DOM element, right? If you want to do an ng if, but you don't want a real DOM element that is going to be like on that ng, like, you know, added and removed from the DOM, you can use an ng container, right? Same thing for ng4. You can use it. You can put directives on them, and I can have that directive not apply to a real element, but have them just kind of logically exist inside of Angular's component and directive hierarchy. Right. So in this case, like we're using ng component outlet, we don't actually want a real DOM element there, right? Like if we had a div, that would be unnecessary. So that we can just use ng container and render the component itself there.
Yeah. So we're good. We got like our first kind of things to happen here. I like this. So now that I've come to terms with all the drama around my type system that I've made for myself, let me try this mythical generator that these people are talking about. Angular generator component.
Oh, wow, that looks pretty good too.
Oh, shoot.
Different color Angular logos.
Wait, my generator didn't work because it's too big.
What's too big?
The font, so it's hiding my what do you call this thing? So we'll call this action. I can't even tell what should be the name of it. I can't see it because it's blocked. I'll rename it if I need to. Action tile.
Yeah. Someone here asks, will we be at ngconf and will we take photos? We don't know. We haven't figured out who's going to ngconf this year.
I'll be there for sure.
Okay, so yeah, I'm thinking like you, Emma, and Minka will be there for sure.
See, this is why. Okay, no more generators for me because it created too much infrastructure, stuff that I don't want. For real, like all of this stuff I did not want. Look at all this. No more generators. Come on, get this stuff out of here. Implements on init. No, none of this. I want it. Just wanted none of this actually. So yeah. So this is why I don't want my generator, and then I still want standalone equals true. Now I'm worried that it created an ng module that I didn't want. Because how does it know about where this thing goes? How does it know?
What's going on?
All right, whatever. We got action tile now. Okay, cool. All right. All right, so this is pretty good. So now we got a display kind of working. Can I find action.tile? What the fun? Action tile. Jeremy, do you like hyphenated names, or do you like
I always use dashes, hyphens.
what?
To me, what you're doing, the camel case names, is quite foreign.
What? All right, we got to keep cooking here. All right, because we are like in the action.
Yeah, I think we're about halfway through our time here, Mark.
Yeah, but this is good because we got the hard part out the way. Because I picked the hardest thing to do first, which I thought was the simplest thing, which was to get our. Okay, so I want this to be an action tile component. All right, very cool. And now let me just. Did you mean? And I didn't even write this, and so that's why it's stressing me out. Because if I wrote it, it wouldn't be no drama. It'd be less drama. Okay, export default. That's fine. Just do default. It's only one thing in here.
Wow.
Get on and it out of here. There you go.
What do you have? Is this a preference you have for doing export default instead of using the braces at the import site?
Yeah, because if it's only for me, if it's only one thing in here, just to export the default thing. But I understand that some people be like, well, no, use the braces. Just a personal preference. Not saying that I'm right or wrong. I'm not wrong, but
I don't really like default exports. I find them.
Why? Tell me more.
I just prefer the explicitness of the non-default exports and just always consistently always using the braces in imports and having the option of adding more symbols if you need to.
Okay. Understood. I feel you on that one. This is not what I wanted. That's fine. It'll be what. Okay, it is what I want. Okay, cool. So now that looks like an action. So you got your blank tiles and you got your action tiles. So now we have our default tiles the way we want. Where is my other window? Okay. All right. So let's go back to our plan. So we got this working. This is done. Check. Faces can have actions. Let's make that work real quick. Let's see. This should be 1 second. TypeScript need a. I know what I want. I know what I want, and I don't want you to tell me. Oh, is that how you do that? Interesting. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay, so what I want now is to have an action property that's optional, returns void, and it takes in.
Well,
so if somebody lands on the star.
You want this to be a function?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I want to be able to define what happens.
Right. Then the syntax you want is not that. It is.
Wait, I'm not done. I'm not done.
Okay.
I'm not done. I want to say what it returns. So, yeah. So first my function, then I say what I return, and I don't want to return anything actually. Okay. So I had it backwards. I have my return on the left-hand side. What I want you to take in though is the game board, I guess, and then if there's some like state, which I don't really know what the state is going to be yet. So right now, I'm just going to say you have no parameters for now. I'll leave it at that. And then once I define my parameters, I'll come back and update it. Let's see. I can answer this question. I know. Brad. Let me tell you what just happened. This is a true story. Just had a conversation about this week, and we're going to get you something soon.
Yeah. I bet it sounds like that Minko dropping the ball.
Hey, leave Minko out of this. Is this the first time? Wait, did you ever see Camel Case Dave component? Hey, listen, everybody has their own preferences. You get to do what you like, right? Some of y'all like, I'm never hiring Mark for my team, never again. I do not like the way he writes code. Yeah, I agree. But I don't want to remove the default. That's why I like the default, because I don't want to add those extra curly braces. It's intentional. It's intentional. Let's see. Anything else? Yes, we will get 1,000 selfies. I am 7'2", so you're gonna have to get a ladder when you step next to me. No, that's not true. But I do like propagating the myth that Brandon Roberts is like 6'8", even though he's only like 6'4". But I intentionally kneel or squat down a little bit whenever I take a photo with him, just to make it seem like he's that much taller. Okay. All right. So now you can have your actions. So that's done. So if a player lands on our action tile, here's what I want to be able to happen. I want it to just console.log. Something happened, right? So that's what I want a person to be able to do.
Sure.
That's what I mean by define it. Okay, so we got our actions already done. All right, so I did stuff I know how to do. And now we got to start with the number of players. So let's get that going. I don't need this open for now. We got like a players array. And this is just an array of, do I want to make a player thing here? What does a player look like? A player really could just be like the label for the player, and that could be a type string.
Yeah, you need a name for them to start off with, and then what you need for each player is actually going to be different from game to game, right? Like some games will have a score, some games will have like money, right?
What's the generic for that? Like the generic term? Like I don't want to say inventory, like attributes maybe, and that can be an array of type any. Like who knows what the attributes are for a player, but you get to decide it.
The type safe way of doing it, right, would be to make player a generic and then have a property called data, which are like game data, and then like that game data is
like that.
Generic, right? Like that's how you would. That's kind of like the most straightforward way of doing it.
Yeah.
Or like you could go like one level deeper and you could have a type called like player data, and that's the thing that's generic. Like there's a bunch of different ways you could do it.
Sure. I'm gonna do something real quick.
Yeah. So someone asked, "What is the game that we're making?" Mark decided this week he wanted to build a game engine for arbitrary board games.
And I'm paying for this. This is going to be our lowest rated stream for sure. People are like, man, this was horrible. Do not do that again. In my mind, this came out very differently, and it has not, managed to. Because one thing I just thought about, how we're going to put the pieces in the component that represents the tile. I just thought about that, and I don't know at all what I would do.
Yeah, you have to pass stuff into the components after you initialize them.
Jeremy, why didn't you stop me from this? You kind of tried to. And I kind of didn't listen. Because I was like, really, this would be a good exercise to just like explore. I can't wait for us to.
What did I suggest? I suggested a different thing. I already forgot.
You did. That's my fault. That is
oh, right. I suggested a kind of a wild variation of Scrabble.
Yeah, you did. And then I was just like, nope, let me just do this. Because it's so much work and I'm not even that deep into it. And like, I just, you just learn. You just learn. Oh my God, you just learn. And so.
All right. Oh, I accidentally put the chat in another tab. Okay, I got the chat open now.
Golly, why did I do this stuff for myself? But I don't know.
I'm having fun.
I'm sure you are. I'm having fun too. I am having fun too. All right, and then we can just return. So answer me this: is what I'm doing right now? Could I have done a generator here, but then I would have to have been able to call next. Never mind. I was gonna say I kind of want to just like return the object over and over again without having to like create an intermediate array. But a generator, I would have to have called next because it does that yield.
If you're talking about like an ECMAScript generator, you don't really have any need for something like that here. If you're talking about like if you just want a function that produces players, then yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, no, the reason I wanted to generate is because I was like, oh, could it be cool to like just be able to do this, right? Or like specifically do this over and over again. You see what I'm saying? Without having to create the.
You could. I feel like it like in a lot of the time generators are just more complexity than they're worth.
Sure.
Like a very niche use case.
Oh, I really should have made a type for this because I'm copying and pasting this. I really should have done
that. Make yourself a player interface.
I know. I just don't want to because I'm being lazy. Oh, that's the wrong way.
You're spending more work repeating.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm just doing more work for myself because I'm being lazy. This is not the way to live, friends. Don't be lazy when you're writing code, okay?
I hope none of you are coming to these streams for like how to actually be good at programming because we play very fast and loose with our improv programming.
Yeah, totally. And people just like, man, especially they're looking at me like, man, this guy, like, he got a job, like, have you seen him write some? Oh, there it is. I got to scroll. I was like, what happened to my other stuff? And I just got to scroll. Oh, I just made somebody mad by doing export default again and not oh. But you see how nice that is though, right? No extra curly braces for just one thing.
It looks so weird to me.
Yeah, I understand that though. All right, so we get rid of this and we say this is a player array. Okay, so that's done. And then, so now this satisfies player without me putting anything in here. All right, very cool. I didn't know that when you do your like types in line like that it didn't, it couldn't like say that this satisfied it. That's interesting. I just learned that about TypeScript. All right, let's answer some questions for a second. Wait, he said he was taking notes this whole time. Don't. This is all for fun, just to see what we can do. Listen, you don't understand how much I like to suffer. I like to play video games on the hardest level the first time through. So you don't even understand how true that is.
It's insane. Like he loads up like God of War, right? And like, oh yeah, hardest difficulty. What is it called? Like, give me God of War
on the first playthrough.
Yeah, like I don't like. It takes so long, Mark.
It does. Order is done, and sequence is kind of done. So like these are done because it's in an array, and I'm just going to iterate over the array. Okay. You kind of have a label as your piece, and I'm just going to do that. Oh, okay. I got it. Jeremy, I got this. Watch this. You're about to be like, man, Mark, all your chaos programming is going to turn into something like real. Okay, so when we start the game, so let's do this. Does it matter, constructor? I'm gonna put it in my constructor. When you start this game up, then we're gonna do a this dot start game, right? And so when you do start game, let me tell you what's gonna happen. It's gonna then I need current player. It's just a number. I know type inference everybody in the stream, but this is just for dexterity, all right? Or is it posterity? I don't remember which one's right. All right, so then at the end of the game loop, so we do one more thing. Game over equals false. So if you're just starting this, game over should be false again. I'm just going to say that if you're just starting. Okay, so you got your game. All right, so while is that going to make me an infinite loop and not what I want? I don't want to do an infinite loop.
Yeah, you probably I'll tell you, you probably don't want a while loop here, right? Like so.
Right, let's say the while loop would just keep running in my start game and nothing will ever happen. But I will.
Classic game programming, right? You do have your like main gameplay loop where every iteration of that loop, you're rendering all the pixels to screen, right? That is how most original video game development works. When working in a web game, though, like your DOM persists in like the rendered state, and you only want to then go like update that DOM based on user interaction rather than like looping and re-rendering every cycle. Now, if we were making a game in Canvas, we'd be having a different conversation.
Sure, totally. Okay, so right now I want to say return. Yeah, I don't have my rules to be able to check for game over, because I would say rules, whatever that object was, dot is game over, right? Like based on what this is a game engine, right? But it's not. So I was going to say if score, because I'm going to have to this is score equals 100. Okay, yeah. And score, score equals or is greater than or equal to 100. Okay. All right, cool. So I kind of have my like, I know. I like camel case and I like unnecessary types. What are you gonna do? Yeah. What are you gonna do?
The camel case is like, it's great.
It's the most egregious thing.
Numbers.
Oh listen, my death counter is in the trillions because it's really making the way.
Like how long did it take you to get through Last of Us Part 2 on the hardest difficulty?
Oh, probably like 50 hours, probably, because the first playthrough. I fought the bloater in the arcade for a week at like maybe 2.5 hours a night, so maybe 10 to 12 hours, because you have limited ammo, limited, and they're overpowered. It's very hard. Yeah, so I probably spent more time on that game than I need to. All right. Like, let's spend more time on this game. Okay, so we got the game started. Game is not over. What's wrong? What you mean you don't know what player is? What's going on? I exported it. What? Did I never create? How did it get all the way out there?
There you go.
Okay, so now first thing first. Okay, so player make a move. So okay, who's the current player? So we say player. This stop. I wish I could do this with this player dot move, but I know that's not the syntax. But you remember that the with command in some languages?
So it's gone. It's all gone.
So I got my players array.
Me back.
All right. So this would be roll. Man, see, I can make it too generic, because in any game, do you roll the dice? Okay, we're going from general game engine to dice-based grid game engine.
You're just at the end of this, like every 10 minutes, you're just going to narrow it further and further until you're just making Monopoly.
Oh man, you ain't lying about that, because that's what this is going to turn into. Okay, so we got to do a roll. All right, and I already feel like this roll function is already going to be hard because I don't even know what the valid values are, and
yeah,
I don't even got to pass in.
You can make any game you want with this engine, provided it's Monopoly.
Provided that it's Monopoly,
hey,
yeah.
There's lots of different types of Monopoly, right?
Yeah, godly. This is
Monopoly, Mario Monopoly.
Oh, why did I choose? And I'm not even close. This is okay, friends. Just to let you know, the next time I program, I'm going to finish a previous game. Just giving you a heads up. The other option was for me to finish our Uno game that we had gotten super far on, and I didn't. I decided this, and this is nothing. Right?
Well, it's no chess.
It's not chess. That's right. Okay. We got to do a dice roll. And I don't even care about the display of the dice roll. I just want the actual roll to know the number of spaces that you can roll. But so this would be like, like a math dot. This turns to like a math dot random.
Yeah, math dot random times the max value you want on the dice.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what's the max value. So if it's 2 dice, the max will be 24. No, 12. I just do 6-sided dice. I'm not doing D&D dice.
Yeah, sure. Dice. We're in Monopoly, it's always a 6-sided dice. So
this is turned into Monopoly. Oh man, golly! But
so yeah, you wouldn't pass it as an argument to math.random. You just take math.random, multiply the output of that by 6,
right?
And I think add 1 and then math.floor the whole thing.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
something like that. All right. Do I need to do my PEMDAS parentheses here? I can. And then so I can return the roll. Okay, fine. Equals this dot roll. Okay, and then
now Monopoly, it is 2 dice, so you may want to just
no. Here, it's still gonna stay somewhat generic. Now, there you go. And then we'll do also.
So you can't do it like that though.
Why not?
That statistically, it's not going to give you the same results as you gotta. Each dice has to be its own random number generator.
Oh, its own random roll. You're right, man. Jeremy, you know a lot about game like design stuff.
I mean, this one's just statistics.
Yeah, but still, I didn't even know that. I just learned that with you right now.
Yeah, so you're gonna like have to create like a sum and
right,
and blah blah blah.
Total roll cannot be constant. I'm gonna have to update it. Okay, and then I'm gonna say so for let I equals 0 while I is less than the this dot max number of dice. Okay, I plus plus. Woo wee. All right, so then we're gonna just say a total roll plus equals. Then we got our roll value, and then we return total roll. Okay.
Yeah.
So can I do this? Hold on. I can do anything really. Let's say current roll. So what I want to do is just see if this is working because we've been writing a lot of code. And so in my game engine, I'm just going to have like something like current player just so we can see that things are moving along the way we want to. And then I almost did that hack that people don't know you can do. You know how you can do this in the template? Don't do that. That's the thing I don't want you to do, which you can't do it. Okay, and then we got, I should probably make this a P. Yeah, okay.
All right. There's a question in here about internationalization. So
sure, what's the question?
So it can be tricky without XLIF merge. I don't actually know what that is. Let's see. I'm looking it up.
Oh. I understand this question. Because like when you continue to add translations, you still have the one translation file, and figuring out what the diff between those translation files are, that can get a little messy, right? Are we going to build anything ourselves to like help with that? I don't know if that's the scope for us to make that tool.
Probably not anytime soon. Yeah. At least we're pretty full up for the foreseeable future. But file a feature request on the Angular CLI repo, and the worst that can happen is that Doug says no.
True. You know what's like I didn't think about here is the role. I guess the role Or is the row within boundaries? So if this is a game where the end point is how you win versus a looping game like Monopoly, right? So you have to decide if the row is in boundaries. I'm not going to implement that. We're going closer and closer to Candyland than anything. All right, we're abandoning Monopoly. All right, so let's see if this is even doing anything. Okay. How come I don't get any current roll? What's going on? Current player.
What causes the roll to happen?
Just by starting game.
Okay. Start game. You get a roll value. Are you expecting something to console.log?
I'm expecting this to. Oh, that's why. That's my bad. Current roll. Okay, there we go. Cool. Okay. So we're getting some values. So move the player. So then, I need some like game state, which I don't even know what type of value this thing is yet. What could my game state be? Because I need to know. Here's things I need to know about the game. Where players are. What else do I need to know about game state? Let me start with where players are. I don't know if this is going to give me any like. So if I did like, wait, so I'm going to give it a type here, just to give me just a little bit of player location. And then this would be, I want this to be an array of what? Hold on. What do I want this to be an array of? I guess I need to know which row and column they're in.
Mm-hmm.
So could I? Is there such thing as like a tuple in TypeScript? Gotta be.
A tuple is just an array where you have like different types of things in each index of the array.
Yeah, because I just want the left and right value, kind of, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I want an array of not left and right, I meant X and the row and column value. So I kind of just want like row column, like a tuple of an array of.
Yep, you could do that. It would be that's of type, right? Like open square brace, number, comma, number, close square brace would be the type signature.
So it knows this is a tuple. That's so rad. TypeScript is just amazing to me. All right, so I got some. So when you start the game, you got to do this game state, and then I actually really have to set everybody at the same position. So
what I think makes TypeScript really amazing for web development and why it's caught on so much is that it fully embraces the weirdness of JavaScript and the weird things that web developers do and finds ways to codify them into the type system compared to what I think like past attempts at type safe web programming have tried to say like, hey, we don't like this whole JavaScript thing and we're going to give you a sound type system. But TypeScript, nah. JavaScript is cool, and so we'll just give you ways to express what it already does, and that's why it has things like string literal types, right? Because add event listener has a different signature based on the string value you pass to it. So it just is like, yeah, cool, we'll support that.
All right. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Let's see if we can get anything happening, which I think we're really close, to be honest with you. So at each row of this thing, so each TD, here's what I'm going to do just for kicks and giggles. I want to display the name of the player at this location. If anybody's there, I want to display the name of the player. So if you are, do I need to get? Oh, can I do? I already called it row. Man, that's not what I wanted. But all right, let me do this.
Time to introduce a new friend, row 2.
Yeah. So I got my I and J indices. So what I want to do here is figure out who's here. What's a good? Let me think. Don't tell me. Let me think about a good way to do that.
Oh, I've completely lost the thread on the game engine.
Oh, it's okay. Let's see. If every player has a location, why not throw at info on player? I don't understand the. Well, why not give the player their location themselves? Why don't they know where they are? I'll throw that info on player. Because so the reason I put it in the game state and not on the player itself, because I feel like the game should know where the player is. I don't think the player has to know where they are, because they can't make any actions themselves based on that. It's like, oh, yeah. I don't know. All right, but let me think. Let me think for a second on how I can do this one. How do I? Because I want to use an if statement to say, so if a player's location is this from the game state, then display it. So I guess I could do an ng if here, but that feels like, doesn't that feel weird though to have another ng if to go through all the players right here? That's not what I want. It's what I want, but not what I want. So if for every row, so you got a row. So I could do it in my game hub. This is start game, not play game, or whatever. We're way past all of this. We're way past.
Well, we've only got 10 minutes on the schedule left, so maybe this is a good stopping point, and we can. Any other questions we wanna answer?
Yeah, we can answer some Angular questions. I'm still gonna try to figure out. Wait, did I break this? What have I done? Player location. What? Why doesn't it like this? What?
Game state is undefined. When
you
there somehow. Either that or you're reading player location somewhere in the.
Sure. And you can start answering questions while I sort this out.
So there's a question, is there official Angular merch? There isn't. There is a Google store. Like, I don't know why we don't have any Angular stuff on the Google store. I feel like we should.
I don't want to do it like that.
But Angular's logo is, there's a whole like licensing thing where it's like available for people to use without needing an explicit license or something like that. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, there's some rules around it. We don't sell anything. Like the Angular team don't sell anything.
Yeah. We wouldn't even have a way of taking people's money if we wanted to.
Right. So that's not a thing. So, I know why you're complaining. You don't like, okay, I get that. So, but then I don't have my player location. It's because I don't have any values yet.
Yeah. So the Angular logo is like licensed under Creative Commons license. Like you can find it on our press kit on angular.io. And there's like a whole, I feel like I need to go find this blog post, right? We did a thing. We did a thing with like Google's lawyers where the like trademark for Angular is like open sourceified, but I don't remember what any of the details of that are.
Creative Commons. Yeah, no, I know to set the game state to an empty object. That's not the problem. It doesn't like TypeScript is fighting me right now, and so it says, let's see, like it's a multi-dimensional array, isn't it? It should not be. It's a tuple, not multi-dimensional though. But thank you.
Yeah, so that's the thing about tuples is that like if you say that it's a tuple of like number, you can't give it an empty array because those things aren't compatible. Whereas if you say something like array,
sure, which I agree with that. I understand that problem. I'm trying to think about what's the right way to initialize it like this dynamically.
Just put them all.
Can I do it manually though? That feels so weird.
So yeah, the thing is that for if you want to put multiple players there, it needs to be.
Okay. I'm gonna do it by hand for now, but I just feel.
Oh, yeah,
I guess I could return a function, right? Wait, why is it complaining now? Oh, wait a minute. I should be able to do this. It's not assignable to type. What?
Because you're saying player location is you have an array of tuples, which
right. That's what I want.
Yeah,
which is what I just gave it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not immediately obvious to me.
Yeah. Okay, wait. Somebody's telling me something. To try to fix the fight with TypeScript.
Oh yeah. Okay. What it's saying, like.
I did it backwards. Duh.
So take the whole thing. Yeah. So you actually said you have, instead of an array of tuples, you said you have a tuple where the first value is another tuple.
Right. There we go. Thank you, friends. Yeah. No, that was a thing. Thank you. No, that was good. That's some really good feedback. TypeScript is awesome, but I tell you. Okay, so now I should be able to use this.
From yourself.
Yes, there we go. Now I can do what I wanted to do. Let's go.
Yeah. See, I would frame it as you're not fighting with TypeScript. You're fighting with your past self.
Somebody said, here's a tip. Use array type so to make it more clear. So they like to do this instead.
I like the other way more, but it is subjective.
That's super clear though.
Yeah. Inside of Google, our like internal Google style guide says to do it this way with array.
Yeah, I like this.
Anytime when it's just like a non-symbol type.
Yeah, I like this. This makes it super clear what I was doing, because I'm just like, yeah, what have I done here? And so then that makes all these more clear too. I actually like that. Yeah. And then you can do that. That looks super clear. I know, Jeremy, that's not your big thing, but I do like the way that looks. So that's super clear as to what the types are. Good stuff. All right, friends. So here, we're going to wrap up. We can answer some more questions about other like Angular stuff, but I'll tell you one thing that I learned today. Do not volunteer to program an undefined problem in a new tool that you don't use. Don't do that. That is definitely playing life on hard mode.
What are we going to do next month, Mark?
I don't know, but first I still want to get my players lined up.
Okay.
But go ahead. We can answer some questions though. Let's see. Pillows, Angular prints, bro. This is funny. Send us a few pillows with Angular prints on them. That would be fire. Let's see. Any other questions about Angular stuff? Oh, here. Why should one specify a type for primitive default values? I like to do it because I like the way that it looks, not as a best practice. I just like the way game over Boolean looks for the clarity thing. Like, I know there would be type inference, but in my mind, I just like the aesthetic of it, even though I didn't do it everywhere, but because I was rushing.
Yeah, and fortunately, Stephen Fluin in the chat remembered the thing I was trying to remember, which is open usage commons.
Yeah. Oh man.
which is a whole thing about how you can use how you can engage with the trademark of an open source project.
I almost had what I wanted for my player location. I almost had it. Because I was thinking, instead of like thinking too hard on how to like get an array there, I was like, couldn't it just always print? So if I just printed this to the screen, right? I was just thinking about it. Oh wait, that's not how you do a tuple, right?
I mean, that's a 2D array access.
Right, well, player location is a tuple. So how do I?
I mean, it's the same. Like at runtime, it's just an array.
Okay, so that still works. But that's not right though, because I want. Yeah, I shouldn't have made that a tuple. I should have just done something simpler than that. Because what I would have liked to have done here is just at each square, it just prints the list of whoever's there, right? Instead of trying to prefigure it out, it just prints the list. So if nobody's there, nobody shows up, right? No players show up in that position. All right, I'm never making a game engine again. Never, ever, ever, ever.
Oh, that was fun. I think we had a record, maybe a record number of viewers at one point during the stream. We were over 100.
Oh, great. I'm glad people got to hang out. I hope people have fun watching this. I have fun doing it, even though it's like I was having much fun. I was having fun because I was learning a lot about some of the Angular things that I hadn't done before, like how to dynamically generate a component, or not generate, but like list a component, and then be able to just add it to your thing. Like I had done that before. That's really dope to kind of figure out how to do that. Learn a lot about like some of the more advanced TypeScript stuff. So that was fun. I had a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Lots of learning. Let's see. Will Angular suggest an alternative to HTTP client for something like fetch?
So
what Signal said.
See, I feel like this is like, make sure you read the Signal RFC when it comes out, because I think this is going to end up being one of the biggest points of misunderstanding around signals, is that signals are not a replacement for RxJS. I don't like. What's the clapping thing? Clap emoji after every word, right? So signals are a container of state, right? They do not represent a stream of events in the same way that RxJS can, and so they have different usages, and you can hook them together, but it's for very specific purposes. So definitely check out the RFC, and I'll leave it at that. When it comes out soon.
Yeah, coming. Oh, and shout out to Steven Fluent in the chat, just watching this. Thanks for coming by and hanging out with us. Let's see. Yeah, no, that blew my mind too. I didn't know that you could do that like that. So that was great. Jeremy is pretty fantastic. So this is a thing that people do have to understand. Like when we think about RX, at least I'll say from my perspective, Jeremy, please jump in on this. When it comes to like RxJS, the way to think about it is handling like unpredictable events. When I say unpredictable, meaning that you just don't know when that thing's going to happen. So even if it is with HTTP client and you have a stream of data coming, you don't know the timing for that stream of data, which makes it unpredictable. RxJS makes a lot of sense for unpredictable events and handling stream of events where the timing is not, it's asynchronous essentially. Asynchronous means unpredictable for all intents and purposes. So yeah. There are adapters that we're building in to kind of like go from like you got the observable, maybe you do want that value as a signal. We have like from observable or from signal back and forth, right? We have those things that are coming. So,
all right.
Anything else we can talk about? Any other questions? I know people. Oh, one last question about unit testing. I saw that from Christopher. It asked if was there any plans in improving the unit testing experience in Angular?
We have nothing to announce right now.
Nothing to announce. I agree with that.
But I mean, in general, right? Like we know that there are some friction points with testing and we would like to make them better. It's just that there are 800 things that we would like to do at any given time and we can only work on a limited number of them. So we have big backlog, testing, lots of testing improvements are on it. But yeah, we're always just trying to do what we think is going to be the most useful thing in the moment.
Okay, anything else? Let's see. I want to say this. This was my dream at first, was to allow everything to be customizable, but that's a much bigger project than I've come to acknowledge in my life here. I definitely bit off more than I can chew for this one. All right. Well, friends, I think that's it for us. We had a lot of fun. It's always fun hanging out. Thanks for coming to the stream. Next month, Jeremy will be at the helm, either programming or playing a game. We'll let him decide. Maybe he got his graphics card by then, and then he can.
I'm going to try to fix my graphics card by putting it in the oven. We'll see if that works.
I was like, what? Oh, all right. All right, friends. Well, until the next time. Hey, stay tuned for the Signals RC. Keep your eye out. Also, just keep your eye out for some other cool stuff that we're announcing. I know Minko Getchup on Twitter has been saying a lot about angular momentum and things that we're doing. So keep your eyes peeled and stay tuned to things like the Angular Twitter. Watch the Angular YouTube. Oh, one other thing. Somebody asked about the course. Just to remind you folks, we got the videos back. So we're cooking. We're cooking. Thank you, Jeremy. Any last words?
Have fun.
Yeah, have fun and go build great apps, friends. And we will see you the next time.